It's actually a little bit surprising to me that it took me this long to get around to making a video about making lo-fi house on the Model Cycles, because it's kind of perfect for it. It's got that kind of electric piano type chord engine, a super punchy kick, and overall somewhat dirtier drum sounds. So today I'm going to show you how I made the beat that you heard in the intro and how to apply it to your own music production on the Model Cycles. So without any further introduction, let's start off with the kick. By far my favorite part of the Cycles sound engine. I have spent quite a bit of time getting quite a bit out of this kick engine. In this case, I've got the decay pretty low. The color around mid. Could probably push it a bit further, to be honest. I would tend to do that a bit more for hip-hop kicks. In this case, I'm going for more of the progressive house, super smooth kick vibe, but pushing this further would push a bit more distortion, which could be nice for a bit of a grittier variety of house. Shape, fairly low. This kind of distortion I tend to push a little bit less. And then the sweep is like fairly in the middle. If I was doing a trance kick, I would push this pretty far. But in this case, it's a little more muted, a little more laid back, and I like the way that ended up sounding. And then contour is fairly high. So once again, pretty muted kick. It does have some nice punch to it though, and this is tuned to be within the key of the song. Up next, this clap thing. There is not a direct clap engine built into the Model Cycles, unfortunately, but there is a workaround that some of the patch designers for the factory patches figured out. And it uses a variation of the chord engine and then an LFO set to be super fast with a sawtooth wave that essentially creates a bunch of little peaks that go by in really quick succession, which is why this sounds fairly granular. So I took that preset and then actually ended up changing the engine. So if I recall correctly, it was originally the chord engine, which is kind of interesting. I changed it to the metal engine, which is the hi-hat. So we've got some very fast LFO movement and the hi-hat, which is why it sounds so clicky. And that ended up fitting better with what the kick is doing. I'm still not fully happy with this, if I'm completely honest. I wouldn't go to the Cycles as my first choice for a clap. But that's what we get, and I tried to add a bit of reverb to make it sound a little bit more proper, I guess. It's there. It's okay. Up next, hi-hat. This has a slight LFO on it, panning it around a little bit. Very subtle movement. I could probably push this a bit further if I wanted to. And listen for that subtle bit of pitch automation on that second measure. If I recall correctly, that was actually an accident, and it sounded kind of cool, so I left it in. Creates a little bit of variation. But the main thing I want to point your attention to is the open hi-hat. So let me try to stop it on that step. So I did some step automation to crank the decay up just for that one specific step. And that is the go-to way to get open hi-hats on this thing. Use the exact same hi-hat engine, just with a much longer decay. And then if you want to make the best use of your tracks possible, I would do step automation to alternate between closed and open hi-hats. The other benefit that that has is that that hi-hat gets choked by the next step, which is a closed hi-hat. Pretty simple. Up next. Bass. One thing to keep in mind is that there's no proper sidechain on this thing, and so I very deliberately kept the bass out of the way of the kick as much as possible when choosing the pattern that I wanted to play. It dances around the kick. Except for that one note, and you'll notice the frequencies do clash a bit. That gets covered up in the full mix, which is fine, but overall, this fits in the pocket between the kicks pretty well. So let me mute this. This is actually not the synth engine. This is the perk engine, which I don't use all that often, but it can be quite nice for some kind of donk basses that you would hear in like a future house track. So about the color, somewhere around mid, gets more metallic as you raise it. Shape, fairly high up, it's got a bit of grit to it. Sweep, all the way down. This is functioning as a synth part, not as a percussion part, so I don't want a pitch sweep of any sort. And then contour, fairly high. This is another one of those fairly muted sounds, which you'll probably be noticing as a trend. Just a nice little bass part. I think I probably underestimated the perk engine, because it can lead to some pretty nice sounds. Up next, this is a weird element. This is one of those elements that I genuinely don't remember if it came from a preset or if it was just me messing around. It seems like the kind of thing I would have just tinkered with until it gave me something weird. If I was trying to come up with an actual melody, this is a bit of a waste of a track, but I like it as a bit of ambience. A little bit of chaos. So this is the chord engine, and the shape is set to this chord right here. So kind of a lot going on. And then the big thing is the absolute ton of reverb going on here, and then the LFO, which is modulating the pitch with a sine wave formation here. I'm not going to spend too much time on that because that's a bit of a weird kind of random element. Let's get into the chords next. So the shape of these chords is the same as this track. Decay, super high, so they'll ring out quite a bit. Color is around 32. So some nice upper harmonics in there. Sweep, low-ish, but we'll come back to sweep. Contours all the way down, because I do want these to be fairly bright and to ring out quite a bit. And then I've got an absolute ton of reverb. So let me go into the LFO. This is my favorite trick for chord stuff on the Model Cycles, is to use a sine wave to modulate the sweep. That keeps the chords interesting, keeps them from being too static, adds this nice electric piano character and a nice little kind of warble, but not a pitch warble. Hopefully you can hear that subtle little evolution. It reminds me of an analog source, but sounds distinctly digital, and there's something weirdly beautiful about it to me. And that's what goes into making a pretty chill, pretty low-key house-type beat on the Model Cycles. If you would like to see some more videos with the Model Cycles, I've got you covered. You can click or tap up over here to see those, and I will be back with a new video in a little bit. In the meantime, thank you so much for watching.